So, Caitlin Clark was seen in Milan for Fashion Week, and yeah, a lot of people have been posting this, and I literally got shared this post, and this was a very, very odd one, because I'm like, oh, is this in any way relevant? And the truth is, yeah, it is. It is. This is relevant because it is what is happening with off-season Caitlin Clark.
That reaction right there tells you everything about where we are with the WNBA offseason. Caitlin Clark shows up at Milan Fashion Week for Prada, sitting front row, and the league itself is posting about it on their official channels. Not a game, not a practice, a fashion show. And the wild part? This might actually be the most relevant thing happening in women's basketball right now.
You know, like, the unrivaled final. So the last regular season game is Friday. Tomorrow at like a reasonable hour. Hive Lunar Owls missed vinyl, which is irrelevant. And the Rose played a Phantom, which is kind of irrelevant again. So Saturday, and the final is on Monday. Is it? Or is that on the 4th? No, sorry. The semi-finals are on Monday. The quarterfinals are on Saturday.
Because here's what's actually happening. While Clark is in Italy, unrivaled, the 3-on-3 league that was supposed to revolutionize women's basketball is wrapping up their inaugural season this week. Quarterfinals on Saturday, semifinals on Monday, championship on the 4th. And without Caitlin Clark playing in it, their viewership numbers have been catastrophic. Even with Angel Reese on the roster, the ratings are terrible. The league's final regular season game is Friday, at what he calls a reasonable hour, featuring matchups he literally describes as irrelevant.
Any country in the world will give her a passport. Like Caitlin Clark, if Caitlin Clark decides she just wants to be the most unpatriotic person ever and just goes, screw America, she could literally play for whatever country she wants because of the FIBA naturalization rule, because anyone will give her a passport. That being said, she's going to play for Team USA. She is with Eileen, which is hilarious, which is absolutely hilarious. With the whole Winter Olympics stuff around her. Like, it was absolutely hilarious.
Now watch this part carefully, because this is where it gets interesting. He starts joking about how any country in the world would give Clark a passport if she wanted to play for them internationally. Italy, wherever. Under FIBA naturalization rules, she could literally choose any country because of her global marketability. But then he mentions she's at this event with Eileen, and he calls it absolutely hilarious. For those who don't remember, Ging is the American-born freestyle skier who chose to represent China at the 2022 Winter Olympics, becoming the highest-paid female athlete in the world through Chinese sponsorships. The comparison he's making here is pointed.
Why is she cheapening her public image? Taking a picture with, I mean this when I say it, is the highest-paid female athlete in the world. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And Caitlin Clark front row at the Prada show for Milan Fashion Week. Obviously, Caitlin Clark has been working with Prada since at least draft night. I don't know if it was before draft night. It might have been before that.
His question is genuine. Why would taking a picture with the highest paid female athlete in the world somehow cheapen Clark's public image? Because that's the criticism floating around on social media. People questioning why she's at Fashion Week instead of working on her game, why she's posing with Gid, given the political controversy around her Olympic decision. And his response is essentially, what are we even talking about here? This is Prada. This is a partnership Clark has had since at least draft night in April 2024, possibly earlier. This is her actual job.
I think it's kind of relevant. I'm actually surprised that they haven't tried to collab on something kind of... Maybe Prada isn't that type of brand. Maybe that's more so like Louis Vuitton and stuff that would collab with other brands if it was like a Caitlin Clark logo stuff. But I don't know. I don't know anything about fashion. I'm wearing a Leeds top in a color that is questionable enough that I don't even know. I'm incredibly colorblind and I couldn't even make a guess at what this color top is. Yeah, I couldn't even make a guess at what it is. So yeah, it is what it is.
The Prada relationship has been lucrative for both sides. He mentions being surprised they haven't done a collaboration product yet. Something with Clark's logo, but notes that Prada isn't really that type of brand. That's more Louis Vuitton territory. Then he goes off on a tangent about being incredibly colorblind and not even knowing what color shirt he's wearing, which is classic self-deprecating humor. But it also reveals something about how he approaches this topic. He's not a fashion expert. He's covering this because it's genuinely newsworthy in the WNBA landscape right now.
But her being there is somehow one of the more relevant things in the women's basketball world. As the WNBA shared this post, and I do find it hilarious where I'm like, the league itself will share that, and I'm like, if the WNBA are smart, they would go all in on any player that's refusing to play in any other league. As in, like if Caitlin Clark played in Unrivaled, and Unrivaled had all this crazy viewership, like there is a world where the WNBA, where they say about Unrivaled, like, okay, yeah, we're good. We don't need the WNBA. But that world does not exist because Caitlin Clark's not playing in Unrivaled, so therefore Unrivaled are pulling in horrific viewership. Horrific. Like, it is what it is.
And this is the crucial part that explains why the WNBA itself is promoting this. He lays it out explicitly. If Caitlin Clark had played in Unrivaled and Unrivaled had pulled massive viewership numbers because of her, there's a world where Unrivaled could have said they don't need the WNBA anymore. They could have positioned themselves as the premier women's basketball league. But that world doesn't exist because Clark chose not to play. She's spending her off-season doing Fashion Week appearances, honoring her endorsement deals, and staying completely away from competitive basketball until Team USA camp. Without her, Unrivaled's viewership has been horrific. Even with Angel Reese, one of the other biggest draws in women's basketball, the numbers are terrible. The league's survival likely depends on getting Clark to commit for next season, and right now she's making it very clear where her priorities are. The WNBA recognizes this. Every day Clark stays exclusive to their league is a win for them. So when she shows up at Milan Fashion Week representing Prada, the league promotes it because it keeps her in the conversation and reinforces that she's a WNBA player first. Makes it sees as unright. He sees a WNBA player first.
Caitlin Clark, she's on a fucking private jet, and even if she isn't, she's grand. I've literally seen professional athletes, especially like, look, I'm in Ireland, that aren't in any way Caitlin Clark, get off economy flights and step right out on the court and hoop. I've seen it happen a lot. It is not an uncommon thing. But that being said, again, she's going to be back in plenty of time to get her she's going to be back in plenty of time to get her bearings, to get ready to play.
Then there's the criticism about her needing to work on her game. And this is where his response gets interesting. He points out that she's got Team USA camp starting in about 10 days. She's literally on a private jet. Or even if she's not, he's seen professional athletes in Ireland get off economy flights and step right onto the court to play. This is one day in Italy. She'll be back in plenty of time to get her bearings and be ready to hoop. But then he makes a point that I think a lot of people miss about the Team USA situation. Clark doesn't have to be the best player on this roster. She can score 8 points per game and still be valuable to the team. If she's just launching passes forward, getting a couple of assists, and the young players perform better than the veterans in these exhibition games, that's actually the best possible outcome for Team USA long-term. Because here's what this Milan Fashion Week appearance really represents. It's a statement about leverage and priorities in women's basketball heading into 2025. The WNBA just finished a season where Caitlin Clark's presence drove unprecedented ratings and attendance for the Indiana Fever. Her rookie year generated more mainstream attention for the league than any season in its history. Now she's in her off-season, and she has choices about how to spend that time. Unrivaled offered her a reported ownership stake and a salary well above what other players are making. They built their entire marketing campaign around the idea of showcasing the WNBA's biggest stars in a more intimate, competitive setting during the off-season. They secured a television deal with TNT. They brought in top talent like Breanna Stewart, Nafisa Collier, and Angel Reese. The league was designed to give players a domestic option so they wouldn't have to go overseas to Russia, Turkey, or China to make real money in the winter. And Caitlin Clark said no. She chose instead to honor her endorsement commitments with brands like Prada, Nike, Gatorade, and State Farm. She's doing appearances, commercial shoots, and yes, attending Milan Fashion Week. These obligations were likely negotiated before she even entered the WNBA, and they're worth significantly more than anything Unrivaled could offer. Her Nike deal alone is reportedly worth $28 million over 8 years. Her State Farm partnership, her Gatorade deal, her Prada relationship, all of these were secured based on her college stardom and projected professional impact. The criticism that she should be in a gym working on her game reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of what her career actually is at this point. She's not just a basketball player, she's a brand. And managing that brand means showing up for the partners who invested in her. Prada didn't pay her to skip their Fashion Week showcase. They paid her specifically to be there, sitting front row, generating exactly this kind of attention and media coverage. The WNBA understands this better than most fans do. When they share posts about Clark at Fashion Week, they're not being frivolous. They're recognizing that her mainstream appeal is what drives value for the entire league. Every appearance she makes, every brand partnership she activates, every magazine cover she lands, it all reinforces the idea that WNBA players can be global celebrities. That's good for everyone in the league, because it raises the ceiling for what's possible in terms of endorsements, media attention, and cultural relevance. Now contrast that with what's happening at Unrivaled. The league's final week is playing out to minimal fanfare. Their television ratings have been disappointing. Social media engagement has been modest. The basketball itself has been competitive and well played, but without Clark, they're missing the one player who could have turned this into must-watch television. And that has to be frustrating for the founders, for the investors, and for the players who committed to the league expecting it to be a bigger deal. The Phantom and the Rose are playing in what he describes as kind of irrelevant games. The Hive and the Lunar Owls are playing in a matchup that's also irrelevant. Only the quarterfinals and semifinals really matter at this point, and even those games are struggling to generate mainstream interest. Angel Reese has been there. She's been playing. She's been competing. And it hasn't been enough to move the needle on viewership. That's not a criticism of Reese. She's an incredible player and a legitimate star, but the reality is that Caitlin Clark operates on a different level in terms of drawing casual fans and mainstream media attention. Her absence from Unrivaled has been the defining factor in the league's first season reception. And her presence in Milan doing exactly what she was contracted to do with Prada reinforces that she's not coming to save Unrivaled anytime soon. The Team USA camp situation adds another layer to this. Clark is about to join a roster that includes veterans like Breanna Stewart, Ajo Wilson, and potentially Chelsea Gray, who he points out is 33 years old and hasn't played point guard regularly in years. The coaching staff is going to have to decide whether to rely on experience or give opportunities to younger players like Clark, who represent the future of the program. If the young players perform well in these exhibitions, it strengthens the argument for building around them heading toward the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. He makes the point that if you're seeing a 36-year-old Chelsea Gray at the 2028 Olympics, you're doing it wrong. What's a 33-year-old Ajo Wilson for? What's a 34-year-old Stewie for? How much more experience do you need? The idea that you'd need a 42-year-old Diana Taurasi for experience when you have Wilson and Stewart on the roster is absurd. Team USA needs to start transitioning to the next generation, and these spring exhibitions are where that process begins. Clark doesn't need to dominate these games. She needs to show she belongs, that she can play within the system, and that she can contribute even when she's not the focal point of the offense. If she can do that while the team wins games, it validates the decision to include her and opens the door for a larger role moving forward. And if she struggles, well, she's got 4 years to develop before the Olympics actually matter. But none of that requires her to skip Milan Fashion Week. She's got 10 days before camp starts. She'll fly back on a private jet, get a few practices in, and show up ready to compete. The idea that one day in Italy is somehow going to derail her preparation is ridiculous. Professional athletes manage travel and commitments like this all the time. He mentioned seeing players in Ireland get off economy flights and immediately step onto the court. If they can do that, Clark can certainly handle a private jet from Milan to wherever Team USA is holding camp. The bigger picture here is about how the WNBA's off-season dynamics are shifting. For years, the league's top players had to go overseas to make real money. They'd spend their winters in Russia, Turkey, or China, playing in foreign leagues that paid significantly better than the WNBA. That created injury risks, fatigue issues, and limited their ability to build their brands in the United States during the off-season. Unrivaled was supposed to change that by offering a domestic option that paid well and kept players in front of American audiences. But Caitlin Clark represents a different model entirely. She doesn't need to play overseas because her endorsement deals dwarf what she makes from basketball salary. She doesn't need Unrivaled because her off-season is already booked with brand commitments that pay better and offer more long-term value. She can spend her winter doing fashion week, commercial shoots and media appearances, then show up for WNBA training camp in May fully rested and ready to go. That's a sustainable model that doesn't exist for most players, but it's the model that the league's biggest stars are increasingly moving toward. The WNBA sharing her Milan Fashion Week appearance is them acknowledging this reality and trying to benefit from it. They're saying, look, our players are global celebrities. They're sitting front row at Prada. They're partnering with major brands. This is the level we're operating at now. And that message is important for the league's growth because it attracts more sponsors, more media coverage, and more mainstream attention. So when people criticize Clark for being at Fashion Week instead of in a gym, they're missing the point. This is her job. This is what she was hired to do. And the WNBA is smart enough to recognize that her doing this job well benefits everyone in the league. The question isn't whether she should be there. The question is whether other players will reach the point where they have the same options. And the answer to that depends on whether the league continues to grow its mainstream appeal, which depends in large part on whether stars like Clark keep generating this kind of attention. What do you think? Is Caitlin Clark making the right choice by skipping Unrivaled to focus on her endorsement commitments? Or should she be playing competitive basketball in the off-season to stay sharp? Drop your take in the comments, and if you want more WNBA analysis that actually breaks down what's happening behind the scenes, hit that subscribe button.